Welcome again to the Think Conversation series, where we explore issues shaping South Africa. I'm Lucky Mathebula from the Think Foundation. I am in conversations with South Africans about how leadership can improve our country. This is more than a conversation. It is a thought-provoking dialogue for a nation moving beyond transformation and transition. This edition focuses on the national dialogue. Where are we? The axiom for today is that great nations must implement what they have committed themselves to. Joining me to unpack this is Ms. Mandisa Khanyile from the National Dialogue Secretariat. Sawubona, Mandisa.
Sawubona, Prof.
Welcome here to the Think Conversation, and I want to appreciate that you could be with us and join us in this conversation. The G20, which we are all celebrating that it was a success, it came, it happened, heads of states were here, over 150 high-level meetings were held, South Africa showcased its capability. This was a global dialogue, and we succeeded in hosting it. Where is the national dialogue?
So the G20 was a global showcase, but the national dialogue is a domestic necessity, and it's moving. It's just not moving at the pace that South Africans, expect or even deserve. If we just take ourselves back, the presidency made an announcement on the 10th of June to say we are going to have a convention, and that convention is going to be on the 1st of August. Civil society immediately activated structures. They started mobilizing on the ground to prepare for that process. Sectors got engaged, and they started to even guide some of the processes that would take place during the convention. The convention happened on the 1st and second on the 1st of August. We brought together people from different sectors, be it transport, be it small to medium enterprises, be it human rights and advocacy, GBV, women, etc. We all came together under one roof with faith leaders, and we celebrated the launch, which was the convention. After that point, there was a bit of a logistical hitch. We had requested funds from Treasury. Those funds had been approved, but they had not made their way into the Secretariat's account. So in terms of the roadmap itself, we were meant to immediately launch the pilot phase of the national dialogue. And that wasn't, unfortunately, able to happen due to the fact that funds had not been made available. So there was a moment of a lull whilst we were waiting for that funding to kick in. That lull is now over. What has happened in the interim is that the sectors convened themselves, and they nominated steering committee members from those structures. That is over 36 sectors that nominated. We have currently more than 103 people waiting to form the structure of the National Steering Committee. Of course, it's going to be a main group, and it's also going to be subcommittees. There's going to be an induction for that structure that's going to be taking place over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And the president and the deputy president will be joining us along with the eminent persons group for that induction process. That will basically relaunch the dialogue process for the nation, where we'll start a series of pilot dialogues. There are about 9 of them scheduled for December, and we're looking forward to inviting the nation to please join us in this critical conversation.
Let me deal with this is not the elephant in the room. I think it's a rhino in the room. President Mbeki is on the record to have said the national dialogue has not started. Even if you launched at UNISA, he went on TV and said it has not started. And can you clear us? Has it started? Has it not started? Because these are two messages.
Of course it started. There were sectors that didn't even wait for resources to be made available and have already started engaging. We have structures such as the National Cannabis Association. They've already had several meetings. I know that the Muslim Council has also had dialogues. The small and medium township enterprises and economies, they've had their meetings. So we have had national dialogue conversations already take place. They've already submitted through their recommendations via the necessary channels. Of course, the hard launch, which is what we wanted, was to have the ward-based dialogues tested so that we could actually branch out into different communities. That hasn't happened yet, as I said, due to the funding glitch. But now that we are going to be starting the pilot phase now in December, I think you're going to start seeing quite a mass rollout, especially from early next year.
Do we have a matching political will by government, by private sector? I mean, big business. I mean, you have seen the political will that was put behind the G20. Do we have a matching will on the national dialogue that we saw in the G20 so that this thing can actually move at the same speed and vigor and commitment that we saw being given to G20? Do we have a similar matching will? Do you think we have it?
I think the will exists, but it's uneven, and that is a bit of a challenge. I mean, you've obviously seen some of the backlash that the process has received, be it from the foundations, be it from political parties who've said that they are refusing to engage. But politically, there's recognition that the country is at a moment of deep fragmentation. The presidency initiated this process, ministers have expressed support, and now there's even a budget allocation. So there are signs of political will. But there is a lot of hesitation because, I mean, we're still not really sure. This is the first time a country has had a national dialogue outside of a civil war. So this is new for everyone. And of course, there's going to be hesitation, especially on the side of political parties, because they don't know how this actually affects them directly. I mean, we are a democracy that relies on elections and manifestos, where the will of the people is guided by their elected representatives. This is going to be the first time since 1994 where we actually directly engage with the electorate, not just the electorate, all of the citizenry, because we are including even children in this national dialogue, to say, what is it that you actually want from this country? What are your hopes? What are your dreams? How do you want to see a plan come together to fulfill those hopes and dreams? We have never done that. We've given our voices to the political parties that we elect, and we allow them to have those conversations on our behalf. This is the first time we are engaged in it directly. So I think socially the will is overwhelming. Communities are tired of exclusion. Civil society has stepped up quite strongly, especially to fill in gaps left by the state. People want to have a voice. They want to actually process what their will is, and they want a credible, inclusive, and transparent process to do so. Business, however, has not mobilized at the required level. There has been quite some challenges in that regard. I don't think there is yet buy-in from their side to become part of the process. I think they're adopting a bit of a wait-and-see approach, but I hope that they do come on board once they see the overwhelming will from from society at large around seeing this process actually take place.
But what is it about the dialogue that is making for example, political parties have withdrawn, and there are civil society movements that have also withdrawn, and those civil society movements and political parties that have withdrawn or are not participating in the national dialogue, they actually almost scuppered the G20 in terms of how they influence the Make America Great Again consensus in the US to have that attitude towards the G20 process. I know you're from the civil society, but you are also in the secretariat. Wearing your secretariat hat, what do you think still needs to be done to get these important partners to actually come back to the national dialogue, including the foundations that have that have accumulated social capital to have a say in the way that they have displayed.
Look, I think there is a trust deficit between the state. Reason why this is even necessary. I think there has been a misconception that this is going to be a state-led initiative when it actually is meant to be citizen-led and is meant to be from the ground up. I think once we have illustrated that this is a citizen-led process, that everybody is actually going to be given an equal voice, that we're not going to be factionalizing the outcomes, etc., and that this is not going to be yet another ploy for political parties or the state to try and manufacture the will from the public. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more trust come towards this process. And I do think that once the public trust is reestablished, we might be able to get all of these key and crucial stakeholders that have decided to step away from the national dialogue to come back into the process and join us. I do think that similarly to the G20, sihamba nabahamba. I don't think we need to pause this process in order to make particular stakeholders happy. If others feel that this process doesn't align with them and what they want to do, of course, this is a free country. They are entitled to their opinion. But I do think that it will be great that once, because this is not a day off process, we're going to be engaged in national dialogue over several months. I think once the momentum is built and they start seeing these hundreds of dialogues taking place in the local stokvel, in the local community hall, even in the tavern, they will want to get on board with a country conversation. Similarly to how those that didn't want the G20 to happen in South Africa were in the end knocking on our doors asking to be participants.
As we're taking a break, because I've got to pay bills for the program, as we're taking a break, I want you to think about what will that agenda of what would be the high-level agenda items that must influence the national dialogue, because maybe people, because they don't know what are the issues that they are focusing on, they don't understand why they should be involved. You always want a roadmap when you are a person. We will be back with more on the Think Conversations.